All right, guys, this is the bonus footage from the Beef Wellington remake episode. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. Hope you enjoy. Virginia Dalbeck here from Hell's Kitchen Season 2. I'm about to cold plunge into my pool. Not as cold as some cold plunges, but nonetheless, I hate cold water. I hate. I have a nice warm bath waiting for me. This cold plunge is going to be metaphorical to the Beef Wellington and all the pain, all the screaming, misery. It's got me over the years. It's raw. Gotta let it go. I'm gonna let it go in this cold plunge. All right. Just like the wide-winged dove, sing songs like someone singing to you. Ooh, baby, ooh, ooh. It's raw, Virginia. It's raw. I'm coughing because right when I landed in the water, my first instinct was to take a huge deep breath. And I went under the water because I've had no proper training or preparation for this. Holy crap. I enjoyed watching me cold plunge. Stay tuned for some of these behind the scenes extra footage of me from growing up in California, moving to Texas. I grew up in Palm Desert, California. When I graduated high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my sister said I should go to culinary school. So I started going to culinary school in Palm Desert, California. And then I got so bored living in Palm Desert, California that I transferred up to Santa Barbara, California into that culinary department there, the culinary school there, which was at the community college actually. And something that was really special about that school is not only did it look over the Pacific Ocean, I literally ate lunch every day looking over the ocean, having that beautiful Santa Barbara breeze blowing in my face. Something else that was really special about the culinary school that I went to in Santa Barbara was that I got to meet Julia Childs a couple times. We got to cook for her in the gourmet restaurant that we would practice cooking in, serving, kind of managing. That was a memorable moment. She was in a wheelchair at the time, but I never realized how tall she was. She was a very tall individual, and I had the pleasure of meeting her, and I will take that with me forever. I decided after culinary school that I would move to Los Angeles and couldn't get a job anywhere in the kitchen that would pay the bills, so I started bartending. That gradually moved into rolling sushi for a company. That company wanted to open a sushi program in New York City. I wanted to move to New York City, so I moved to New York City, continued with that company rolling sushi. Again, couldn't really pay the bills, so I started bartending. Then it was when I finally had a dual income that I was able to get back into the kitchen, and I was working for Mario Batali at Lupa Osteria. My friend saw an advertisement for an audition for Hell's Kitchen Season 2, and I thought it was just like the area in New York City. Like, I didn't think anything of it. I just, I conveniently was off that day, and I went and auditioned. And it was funny too, because when I went to audition, the lady kept saying, there's no models or actors. You have to have a culinary background. You have to be working in a kitchen somewhere. You have to be working in a restaurant somewhere in the city. And like half the room got up and walked out, and they were kind of like looking at me like assuming I was a model. Okay, they did, because they specifically like looked at me, and I'm like, I work at Lupa, so I bust my butt working 50 hours a week for $10 an hour, 10 hours of overtime, while my friends are working in cool, like front of the house positions, like bartending and like serving Beyonce and like Jay-Z, and I'm in the back with my shins sweating in my culinary clothes, my black and whites, which I don't wear anymore. Thankfully, I have them all saved. All my chef coats kind of tell a story. It's really cool. I should probably hang them up in like their own special closet one day, because all my chef coats kind of tell a story, where I was working and what I was doing in that time of my life. It's glad to put those on the shelf though, because they're bulky, they're boxy, they're not sexy, they're starchy, they're unattractive, and yeah. Waited about 4 hours to get talked to for about 5 minutes. The next day was set up for a video interview, and then it just kept going and going and going. The video interview turned into a phone interview, turned into 25 pieces of paper. I had application I had to fill out. turned into fly me out to California overnight to audition with the producers, and then that just escalated from there. And a lot of mystery, a lot of suspense, a lot of not knowing, a lot of guessing and waiting. I was 25 when I was on Hell's Kitchen. Actually had my birthday when I was on Hell's Kitchen, which was kind of cool. Gordon Ramsay said at the end of one of the nights I was on the chopping block that he's like, "And Virginia, happy birthday." That was pretty cool. Then finally, God, I hate bringing up my marriage though. And it I have to bring it, something that's kind of really cool about finding out I was going to be on Hell's Kitchen. It was like one day before my wedding, and I literally went to go be on the show 3 days after I got back from my honeymoon. It was crazy. It was a whirlwind to be like a newlywed and then be swept off for a whole month and not be able to talk to your spouse the entire time, maybe once or twice, and then towards the end when they were able to actually be on the show as a surprise. But it was an emotional roller coaster from beginning to end. A lot of people always ask me, where did you stay? Was everybody in an apartment? What was the sleeping arrangement like? Basically, it was a dorm style situation on one side of the building in LA, and then the other side of the building was the kitchen, the two kitchens, the red kitchen and the blue kitchen. And there was a little outside area with the jacuzzi and stuff. The bathrooms were unisex, and we all kind of just shacked up together, as you guys could see, but everything was on site. We would leave the building to go on rewards for all the challenges that we would win, because I won every challenge except for one, but I was also on the chopping block 9 times. People called me the cat with 9 lives. So I really enjoyed spending that month. It was a month straight. It was 28 days in LA. And every time somebody got to get eliminated, the first couple weeks when somebody got eliminated, they would go back home. But if it was towards the second half, the second last 2 weeks of filming, they would go to an apartment in Venice. I wasn't aware of this until after the show. I'd be like, where were you guys? We were just waiting for the show to end, because they all made a comeback and helped us in the kitchen. And so they were just staying in a little apartment in Venice, just letting the days go by until they could come back on the show. And I thought that sounded kind of cool and kind of fun. But it was really nice spending that month in LA, even though it was 28 days of hell. Literally only had 2 Sundays off, which they called blackout days, and they would take us to a hotel down the road, give us 3 menus, say, this is your lunch, this is your dinner, call me with an order when you're ready. Don't leave your room. If you leave your room, you're off the show. They kind of scared you into staying in the room. But I was more than happy to stay in the room, because I literally would sleep all day and just watch TV, because in the dorms, you don't have TV, you don't have cell phones, you don't have any personal items that would entertain you and distract you from interacting with your teammates. They really wanted as much interacting as possible. They also wanted to say, if I wasn't getting along with Sarah one night, they would pull everybody else out of the room to go to commentary and kind of leave me and Sarah in the room together, kind of set people up in tricky ways to kind of have confrontations with each other and create drama. They also would exhaust us, which also would make us emotional and delirious and psycho. And that was at the beginning. It was crazy. And then towards the end, it kind of started mellowing out. And by the time it was just me and Heather, it was a totally different show by that time. It was everybody, Gordon was a lot nicer, and there was a lot more opinion, I had more of an opinion and more of a voice. Everybody, production, was working with me in a nicer way. It was interesting the way that it just completely flipped around. But the whole time I felt like there was a lot of negative feedback from my teammates, thinking that I just got that far because I was flirty with Gordon Ramsay. And looking back, that was just an insecurity of mine, thinking that I had to be that way or be cute and funny. And now looking back, it's not a very professional way to handle myself, and it was unnecessary, and I didn't really need to rely on being flirty and cute to get where I was, because obviously it had a lot to do with my creativity and my palette. But okay, my best moment on Hell's Kitchen was, I can't say just one thing in particular, all the challenges we won every challenge except for one. We got to go on a helicopter ride. I got to go on like a cool little cruise around Marina del Rey. I got to go to like a restaurant soiree one night where we went to like 5 different really great restaurants. I mean, there were just so many cool rewards to spend. Also to spend that time outside of the kitchen with Gordon Ramsay and get to know him more on a personal level. The shopping spree at Sur La Table, that was cool. I mean, it was just all the rewards. I mean, I still have some of the pots and pans that I got from Sur La Table. I still have Gordon's cookbooks. I still have the knife, the cleaver. I mean, it was just the worst. I would say the worst thing about Hell's Kitchen was just being away from your friends and family. Like, you weren't allowed to call anybody, you weren't allowed to vent to anybody, kind of like, that was really, really crazy. I mean, like I said, I had a birthday where like I didn't talk to anybody for my birthday. Nobody was allowed to, you know, you're just cut off from the outside world. That was really hard. So when the show was finally over, I pretty much slept for like a month straight. Some of the days were so long in Hell's Kitchen, and I used to wear contact lenses that like I would have to like secretly like wet my fingers and like stick them in my eyes so my contact wouldn't flip out when I'm like on the chopping block. They're so dry. Especially like on the very last episode after Heather and I, you know, had our last night, we had our own restaurants, we had our own service. We had to go back and wait to see who the winner was for like 4 hours. I think we were done at like 11 p.m. and we didn't go back out on set until like 2 or 3 in the morning. Like she and I both fell asleep. And so my contacts were really dry. So when I was standing at that door with the key, I was like, oh my God, they're both gonna flip out. I'm not gonna be able to see anything. Seriously, like that was my biggest concern at that time. It wasn't like, am I gonna win? Am I gonna lose? I was so exhausted and like delirious that I was just like, let's just open this dang door and get this over with. For the Beef Wellington episode, that was the first night of service, and I was very confident that I was gonna nail it. I was very confident until I realized that I have not had enough experience cooking meat in a restaurant service environment. Like, grilling at home is completely different. The Beef Wellington is tricky because you're trying to cook a filet mignon to a particular temperature without burning a very delicate puff pastry dough on the outside. So I had zero idea what I was doing. I was very green. I didn't have a lot of experience. One thing I did realize after the show, looking back, Hell's Kitchen casts people that are very passionate about culinary and cooking and the restaurant industry, but don't have a lot of experience. So if you mix kind of those two together, it's kind of a setup for failure because, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, it makes me speechless. It really did. They really did just kind of set you up for failure. They really did want you to fail, and it was hard. It was hard getting screamed at. If he was just, sometimes Gordon Ramsay would just hone in on you and pick on you, and I remember like that night was just traumatizing, and it's just, nobody knows you, like nobody knows your style. You're all working together for the first time. And I just brought the whole team down, and it just was horrible. We wasted so much food too. Looking back as a restaurateur now in Texas and back as a contestant on Hell's Kitchen, I mean, besides 15 plus years and a lot of ups and downs emotionally, personally, and career-wise, I've definitely have less of an ego and I'm way more humble. But I would say when I just watch, when I like have the courage to rewatch my Hell's Kitchen episodes, I just think about how much I should have just spoken up for myself more with Heather and Keith. They kind of ganged up. No, they didn't. They ganged up on me towards the end. They were rude to me. They kind of had bad attitudes. And I just kind of brushed that under the rug. And I mean, it's kind of hard to watch. I wish I would have, I did tell them to shut the F up a couple times with certain stuff, but I wish I would have just spoken up more. And even to this day, I kind of need to speak up more when people offend me and stuff. I bite my tongue a lot. There's ways to get the point across and be confident. It also puts somebody in their place with how to communicate. So I think in general, just my communication's gotten better. My confidence levels have gotten better. And that just has to do with not really how many restaurants I have, but how much reflecting and tough conversations I've had with myself and just personal growth. Go ahead, you guys. Leave some comments below on any episodes, scenes, or recipes from Hell's Kitchen Season 2 that you want me to remake, talk about, highlight, make fun of, and cool.